Hey folks, Dust here, and welcome to, I think this is episode 22 of The Hype. And some of the people who have been out there for a long time, who've maybe followed my YouTube channel for a long time, know that I used to do a show. The last episode was like a year ago, actually. It's been a very long time, Moddii, so you're going to be kind of like breaking in the show, hopefully again, to try to do it more regularly. It was one of the things that people like the most, I think, from this YouTube channel, because obviously people love hearing from the players and people out in the community. And so this is going to be like kind of an interview, but kind of a talk show as well, because we're obviously going to talk about Moddii and about his team, Heroic, especially with their recent results at IEM Katowice and roster moves and things like that. Very, recent stuff. But we also going to talk to him a little bit about things just currently going on in the scene, just kind of get his take on things from a player perspective. I think it's like a good mixture of learning about him and his team, as well as just getting, a player perspective about things going on in the scene. And I did want to apologize. It's been so long since I've done an episode of The Hype, but as I was kind of saying in some other content, sometimes it can just be hard with how busy people are to schedule things like this. But I figured I would give it a crack, and Moddii was so kind to give up his time to do it. And so, yeah, we're going to do it. First off, you probably should know who Moddii is, but Moddii, do you want to do just kind of a quick introduction for people out there who maybe have no idea who you are? I don't know that that's possible, but...
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Moddii. My name is Andreas. I'm originally from Sweden, but now I live in Denmark with my fiance. I'm 27 years old, been playing professional in 1.6, teams as Fnatic, SK, and now I'm playing CSGO for Team Heroic.
Indeed. And obviously, Thorin did an episode of Reflections with Moddii not so long ago, and that really did kind of touch on his history in 1.6 and kind of, talked about him as a player and got, into those types of things. And so I kind of wanted to just avoid most of that because there's no real sense in overlapping. I kind of wanted to focus more on the present. Those of you who don't know who I am, again, just a commentator, analyst in the scene, particularly got a lot of work last year with ELEAGUE and Gfinity and things like that, and recently at DreamHack Leipzig with Magisk. So that's kind of what I'm about, commentator, analyst, but I like doing YouTube content, and this is just one of the mini series that I like to do on this channel. Just a quick intro there as well. But where I wanted to start talking to Moddii about, again, because I wanted to kind of avoid some of the historical stuff that Thorin already covered, is I wanted to just hone in on the CSGO aspect and mostly focus on how the current team you have came together. And so obviously how your current team came together was basically when SK breaks up, right? So this is a team you were playing with for quite some time. The final lineup that team had before they broke up at the middle of last year was yourself and Friis, which of course moved on to Heroic. Then you had Acilion, who I think played with you once actually when you got Valde and Glaive, right, at the DreamHack summer event. You had like that one event together, but then he eventually leaves, of course, and goes to Splice, and now I think he's playing on Trick now, if I'm not mistaken, with Friis. Right. And then Pimp, obviously, on Liquid. Magisk obviously is on what is now North, but formerly Dignitas. And so I guess my question would be is how did this breakup even happen to where the Heroic that we know today came together?
Well, they started off like, I don't know, around 8 months ago, 7 maybe, when we were playing in SK, and during E-League Season 1, we were there with SK with Pimp and Acilion, Magisk, Friis, and me. And during that event, Pimp told us he would leave the team after the event because he got an opportunity from Team Liquid. So during that time we needed to find a new player basically, and the Danish players, my team, they knew Glaive from Source, and they knew he started playing again in Copenhagen Wolves. So, and they told me he was a good player and we wanted to test him out. He was an in-game leader as well, and that's basically what we needed at that time. So we asked him to play stand-in for us on DreamHack Summer later that same year, and he basically said yes. So that was how that started with Glaive. And then 1 week before the DreamHack Summer tournament, Magisk told us he couldn't go because he had some exams in school. So we were one guy short. So Glaive proposed to a guy that called Valde that he played with in Copenhagen Wolves. He said it was an up-and-coming talent, and so we was like, yeah, sure. Like I think I played with him once in mixed, like as a normal gather, like 2 years ago or something. So I didn't know him basically, and I don't think Friis knew him, and I don't think none of us knew him basically. So we just, yeah, why not? Like we just take the tournament as as it goes. So for that tournament in DreamHack Summer, it was me, Friis, Acilion, Glaive, and Valde. So we played that tournament basically 2 stand-ins. So I think was the beginning.
So what happens with Acilion playing with you guys? You know, like obviously he leaves and he goes and plays for Splice for a time before now returning with Tricked. So was it initially the plan to have Acilion playing for the team, or was it always just like, yeah, Acilion's playing DreamHack Summer with us, but in reality we want to go and find someone else? Because when you think about this, what happens is eventually you pick up Snappi to be your in-game leader, correct? That's obviously a very important role, and that's like we're going to talk about that in detail in this moment. So how did that come about? You know, was it because you felt you needed an in-game leader and Acilion wasn't really that for you, or what happened here for Snappi to come in?
Well, I think Acilion was a part of the team back then. So, but after DreamHack Summer, people saw, after DreamHack Summer, Magisk told us he got an opportunity from Dignitas back then. So and he said, I want to take it. So basically we were missing a guy again. So at that time it was Glaive, me, Acilion, and Friis, and we needed my bad. It was not like that. Not internally.
We'll get there.
But after the DreamHack Summer, some of the players didn't felt comfortable playing with Acilion, so they wanted to remove him from the team to bring in Valde, so we got more firepower, and Glaive should call. So basically, we ended up kicking Acilion, and just 1 week later, Magisk told us he wanted to leave for Dignitas. So we basically just called Acilion again to ask him if he wanted to play with us. In the beginning, he said yes, so we started practicing with him. Then he just before we were signing contracts with our new organization, he said, I'm not going to sign because I'm going to sign with another team. And that was for Splice in North America.
Wait a second. Hold on. So you're telling me that you guys wanted to play with Acilion and the team could have been Glaive as an in-game leader, yourself, Valde, Friis, and Acilion, but Acilion decided to leave to go play with the hodgepodge that was Splice at the time?
Yeah, that was correct.
Okay. I think that'll be interesting to people. So I think maybe some people would have thought that maybe you kind of like kicked Acilion and so Acilion goes to Splice, but in reality he wanted to leave and pursue that. Okay.
Well, basically we kicked him in the beginning.
And then you brought him back. And then...
Yeah,
okay.
Because I was like, I'm a really good friend with Acilion, so I was like, I don't like it, but if my team wants it, well, it's 3-2-1, we need to do it, And so we kicked him, and then Magisk came and said he wants you on Dignitas.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the first guy who said, okay, I want Acilion back. And the other guy was like, yeah, okay, let's give him a shot, because at that point Acilion was the game leader.
Right.
So if Acilion wasn't supposed to in-game leader more, so he can focus more on his individual skill. So I told the team I want to play with Acilion again. So we basically brought him back. We played a week or two, played some official games. It was decent, it went okay. And then we got this opportunity from the organization, and me, Glaive, Friis, and Valde, we signed the contract. And then I woke up one morning, I think it was 6 in the morning, had a mail from that organization who told me that Acilion didn't want to sign the contract because he wanted to go to North America to play for Splice. So I was kind of shocked, but I was like, it was understandable because we kicked him and he felt backstabbed.
Right.
But yeah.
So I guess the natural next question to ask then here is, how does Snappi then be the selection that you guys make to fill the void that Acilion leaves when he leaves to go play with Splice? How does that come across?
So when Acilion made his choice to move to NA to play with the Splice guys, we need to sit down again to talk about the fifth player, and we all come up with ideas. We needed someone to fill in for Acilion, of course, same play style basically. And once again, we looked back in Copenhagen Wolves, where both Glaive and Valde played. They played with Snappi back then as well. So We turning out testing Snappi, and it worked fine. At that point, we had a coach that was calling for us, Haste. And after some mixed results and all that, we kind of felt like, okay, this won't work, because he had his vision of a calling, we had our. So basically, we at the one boot camp before China, PGL, I think it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first event we were going to. We sat down like 2 days before we were supposed to travel to China. We said, this won't work. We can't let you call, because this is just way too hard for us. So we was like, who can call? Who can do it? And Snappi said, I can try it. So that was that's how it started, basically.
So did the Valve coaching rule have nothing to do with this decision then? Because I feel like this came out around the same time that like people would know that coaches weren't going to be able to call anymore anyway. Did that factor in at all into, or was it strictly just because you didn't like the calling of your coach?
No, that was just strictly that we didn't like how it panned out, basically. We just need someone that had some like ponders, can like tell people to do like this, do that, basically.
So kind of two questions come to mind now that you've said this, like, because I kind of wanted to just, on the fly come up with new questions as you say things I think are interesting. So
it's cool.
First off, you mentioned early on that like when Acilion was still going to be on the team, that Glaive was actually going to be the in-game leader. But then all of a sudden you have your coach in-game leading, but then that doesn't work out, and so you have to decide who's now going to be the in-game leader. Why does it go to Snappi then instead of like Glaive, who was originally going to be the in-game leader of the team?
Well, after that incident with that, because we put Hasta as an in-game leader because we thought that was the best. And after we removed the coach during that boot camp, we asked Glaive to in-game lead, but he didn't want to. So that's it.
No idea why he changed his mind, or just kind of how it was? Because obviously he becomes an in-game leader later for one of the best teams in the world. So it's kind of neat to kind of follow that storyline a bit. Not sure if you had any insight into what was going on then with this mindset.
I only know what I've heard and what I think it was. So, well, I think he just wanted to be in-game leader for Astralis because I just think he thinks that they have better players, so he can work with it much better. And he didn't want to do it with us because he just think we didn't work good enough, I guess. Okay,
fair enough. We'll get more into Glaive a little bit when we talk about that roster move. But so my next question would be: so Snappi takes over in-game leading, and did he have any experience in-game leading before he in-game led Heroic?
No, what I know, he hasn't in-game lead ever.
Okay, so when he first became the in-game leader of the team, what do you think that he was kind of doing for you guys as an in-game leader that you felt was an improvement upon the original coaching situation you had that kind of made you want to stick with Snappi being an in-game leader?
I just think he had, like, people trusted him. He had, I think people just saw up to him because when he said something, people trusted him, and if it didn't pan out how we wanted to, people just still had trust in him, I think.
Right. I mean, how did you feel his competency level was as an in-game leader, if that makes sense? Like, how good did you think his reads were, or how, like, his game plan, so to speak, like how he set up the team? Like, how did you feel about that in these initial stages where he's obviously new to this, so he's trying to learn on the fly, he's trying to come up with things, and obviously it seems to develop pretty well. We'll get down the line a little bit later, but what were kind of your initial thoughts about this team and how things were going into the PGL tournament after the boot camp or what have you?
In the beginning, it was nonetheless a big struggle. He was new to it. The team was new to it. So in the beginning, it was hard for him. It was hard for us. But Marco Snappi, he is one of the cleverest guys I've ever known. So he put in a lot of hours to it, and he is from the beginning to now what's the word? I can't even remember the word.
From then to now, like the evolution of him as an in-game leader?
Exactly.
Okay.
The evolution from him from 7 months ago to now is huge. He's just huge.
I got you. This will actually be interesting to ask a little bit later when we think about like other regions who are trying to develop in-game leaders and how Snappi was able to do it, and maybe other regions haven't been able to do. Is there anything there that you think, you know, is it because other people just haven't tried hard enough to embrace in-game leading as much as Snappi did at this time, or what do you think it was that allowed Snappi to be able to do this evolution that we're talking about, whereas maybe you don't see that happen so often with other people?
I just think when Snappi put his mind in something, he has to do it like 110%, and he works for it. He's not just going with the flow. Like he really wants to improve. He wants to be the best. So he has put in the hours, and I think that's just a big difference from like a lot of players and in-game leaders, I think.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he even does it at the expense of his own in-game performance at times? Because I feel like certain players, like this is actually really famous in Denmark. With MSL is probably the biggest example of this, where he will sacrifice himself to set up someone like Config, or now AZ, obviously, because they've made changes. And I felt like Glaive would be willing to do this for Kjærby a little bit on Astralis. Do you feel like Snappi's kind of the same way on your team to set up people like Nikolai or something like that?
Yeah, he does that all the time. He like in his 1.6 days and his early CSGO days, he was like the main carry. He was the star player basically, and from going from a star player to be the guy who sets up other players to be good or look good in front of the camera, that's taking his toll basically.
So would that then be like kind of the key difference maybe to someone like Snappi compared to other people who are maybe thinking about being in-game leaders, is the fact that he calls around his players and he's willing to sacrifice rather than like calling around himself or something like that? Have we hit something there, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's just interesting to kind of get a little bit of insight. It's understandable if you're not 100% sure, but it's just, I thought it was kind of a neat discussion to bring up in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
But so obviously your first LAN with this 5 was that PGL event that you talked about in China, where you guys you had like some pretty decent results against the Asian teams. Like I think you beat Tyloo, you beat Vici Gaming, but then you lost a best of 3 to Epsilon.
Best of 5.
Best of 5 to Epsilon, excuse me.
No worries.
Like, what were your thoughts then after this tournament? Like, were you guys concerned? Was this kind of expected because of the rapid changes you were making right beforehand? Or what did you take away from this?
Well, it wasn't expected because I think beforehand we came into a tournament thinking we were going to win it. But it didn't pan out like that. And after the tournament, we sat down and talked. And I know Snappi said it was on him because he think he played the worst game of his the whole life, and he was neutral with calling and such. So it was like hard but not hard because we just like I said, we swapped in game leader 2 days before the event even started. So I guess afterhand it was a good event because it was the first event. Valde, it was basically his first LAN tournament. It was our first LAN tournament, and it was Snappi's first LAN tournament with game leading. So I think we were happy, but not happy.
Right. Now, obviously, pretty shortly after this is your next LAN event, right? Which is Power-LAN, which is probably the event that kick-started people even paying attention to your team, I think is like the fair way to put it. This is like where people kind of you caught people's attention, like, okay, like, well, who is this team? Obviously, like players like yourself and Friis have been around the scene for a long time, so you guys are obviously recognizable. And then people within the Danish scene or just who follow like EU really deeply may have like heard about you. But from an international perspective, like this is where you guys made a mark, right? You guys beat Astralis and Dignitas in best of 3s to actually win this event, and it wasn't so long after PGL, which may have been considered disappointing, right? So what do you think took place between then and Power-LAN that allowed you to be so successful at this event, beating like the other top Danish teams?
Yes, I guess no one have ever seen us basically. Like people didn't thought the PGL tournament was a big tournament or even a good tournament, so people didn't even have eyes on us at that time. So after PGL, we come back to Denmark, start practicing, getting a map pool, a pretty decent map pool back then. And as you said, we're going to, I think we had like almost a month home before Power-LAN.
Right.
And I think in Astralis they had vacation because it was that late August, I think. So
right, the post Cologne vacation kind of deal.
yeah, exactly. And I guess when you are Astralis and Dignitas back then, you don't watch videos or demos of a team called Team X who's gonna participate in the Danish local team. You know, they're gonna watch each other.
Right.
And so we actually started off struggling basically in the group stage. Like we didn't have that much of success. We were playing pretty close games,
Right.
and so we didn't like when we started off. Yeah, we won our group and we were seeded, I think, third in that. So we needed to play against Astralis in the semifinal basically, and like.
You had to play a tournament in hard mode at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I don't think any of us thought we could win because, I don't know, we came from PGL like losing to Acilion, having pretty
right.
weird group stage, playing overtime versus some teams, Danish local teams, and we started off playing Dash 2, which we never played, we didn't practice, and they basically just took a club and just hit it on his head because we lost 16-3. Then we ended up playing, I think it was Cobble, which Astralis doesn't play. They permabanned it, and that was one of our stronger maps.
Yeah, that's really the map that you kind of built your name on, I felt like, early on.
Yeah, so we managed to win 16-14 on a map we felt we are really, really good at, and Astralis is really, really bad at. And so the series tied up 1-1. Then we came to Overpass, which was our second best map, I felt. And that's when we were like, I think we were up like 11-10 or something. Then I think people realize if we just play good now, we can manage to beat Astralis, you know. So, and then I think it was like 12-12 or 13-12. I think we crossed their economy or something, because we actually lost to Forespy with 5-7 from Carrigan when we were supposed to rush Monster. Like late in the round, he killed 4 of us through smoke or something, and I think people got a little bit scared there because we might have thrown that game away. But I think we pulled ourselves together and we actually won the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was like a big result for you guys. Again, this kind of put you guys on the map. People were like, oh, okay, like this team, you know, is beating Astralis Dignitas. And obviously the other big thing about this is I think this is where people are getting their first look at Valde really as a player. Obviously, Glaive had been around the scene since like the origins of CSGO and going back into Source. And early on in CSGO, he was actually like one of the guys on some of the bigger name teams. And then he just kind of like... I'm not sure. Do you have any indication of like why Glaive like never remained on top teams like later on, like the TSMs and the Tosses of the world, like going back into maybe 2015? How he just kind of, you know, he was on Copenhagen Wolves, like you said, a team that wasn't really like, I guess in the latter part of Copenhagen games, they weren't really a part of the top international scene. So do you have any indication as to like why Glaive kind of got cast into the shadows, so to speak, before he comes back and looks really hot at this tournament?
I think he has did something similar to me. In the beginning of CSGO, Glaive, he played in a pretty good... I think he played in the best team in Denmark with the Western Wolves.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, with MSL and them, Pimp, MSL, Nille. Yeah, and basically they were a pretty good, decent team. They ended up second in Copenhagen Games. They were at that event in Austria, I think, Schweiz or something, when they lost to final against NRP. But after that, people didn't even see Glaive anymore. I think he just took a break. I think he missed something in his life, so I think he took a break. I don't know, but that's just a guessing, because I did a similar thing. Because in my early CSGO days, I start playing with Fnatic, with Friis, Kerrigan, yeah, Trace, yeah, kind of mixture players, some with Stinger as well. But after that, I got an opportunity from Acilion back then with JW, Thrusha, Devilwalk, and Schneider, and I told Fnatic that I wanted to play with those guys, and after some time we got the recruiter from Fnatic, and they wanted wanted us to play for Fnatic again. And after like 2 months, 1 month with Fnatic, me, Flasher, and them, I told the team I'm missing something. I don't feel comfortable, and I don't want to play. So I think you should find someone else to play with. And they sure did. They found Pronax, and they got the best team in the world. Basically, I stopped playing for like almost 1.5 years. So I think Glaive did the same. Basically, he stopped playing for a long time like me, and then he came back to Copenhagen Wolves 1 year ago or something. So yeah.
Right.
Long story short.
Yeah, I get what you're
I
saying.
think I took a break.
So again, like Glaive plays really well at this tournament. This is kind of like his comeback, so to speak, at this event, and then it's also the birth of Valde, because obviously Valde goes on to continue to play very well for pretty much all of 2016. He's like one of the breakout players of the year, and people predict he'll be an even further breakout player perhaps this year. Yeah. You obviously said that you didn't really know him that well whenever he came onto the team originally, but obviously now at this point you have been playing with him in practice for a while. You had gone through a couple LAN events now. What were your thoughts at this point about young Valde? I mean, this guy who kind of came out of nowhere, seemed to handle these events pretty well early on. What were kind of your initial thoughts about this player?
I think in the beginning I could see myself in him. He was a really hungry player, and he developed really late because he's 21 right now. And like I said, I could see myself in him because when I started playing in professional, I was like 19 or 20 as well when top level. Mm-hmm. So I just think he is mature, so he could handle the pressure. Basically, he didn't have he's not a young guy with like 16 that can play on a stage and like get nervous. I just think he can handle himself, because he's a grown-up man, basically.
Yeah, I heard like a crazy story about Valde. I don't know if this is. I think this is kind of accurate. Wasn't he? I think he was telling me he was in the army or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he came back, and then he was supposed to, I guess, get like a real job or whatever. But then he was just like, no, let me try Counter-Strike. And I guess his family had said, okay, like you have a certain amount of time, I guess, to like try to see if you can make it in CS. And if that happens, then like cool. But if it doesn't, then you're going to have to like, focus on a real job or whatever. That's true. This is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy to think about.
But of course, he was.
So I mean, how much was he even touching CS then before he joined your team at like at a top level, or so to speak, almost non-existent, or?
I guess so. I didn't know him before he joined my team, so
he kind of had to work his way up the ladder a little bit, so to speak, to get an opportunity on this team. Because you said he was like Snappi, and people were familiar with him from Copenhagen Wolves, right? Glaive as well, and so I guess they just kind of saw something in him and brought him up, and it seems to have worked out, right? I mean, he's obviously a great player.
The story I have heard is like when Copenhagen Wolves wanted to form a team. I just think Glaive have been playing some pugs with him, and it's like, this guy's played good in pugs. Let's try him out. So he basically came from pugs to Copenhagen Wolves, from Copenhagen Wolves to us.
Yeah, so I guess kind of like a natural progression for most players, except it seemed to happen like pretty rapidly for him. Like I think he kind of quickly proved himself.
I think it was like between 3 or 4 months. From pugs to Copenhagen Wolves, 2 months, 3 months, then to us.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. When you think, I think people may be impacted by that when they hear this pretty crazy stuff. So obviously after Power-LAN, you guys have a few more events with that initial 5 that we were talking about with Glaive and Valde and such like that. It was a North Arena Toronto event, which was the first event that me and you met actually. And then you had the Star Ladder Season 2 finals. These are all in September, by the way, and then DreamHack Bucharest. So like 3 events in 1 month, so definitely like really tough travel schedule. Like you're going back and forth to NA, going all over Europe and things like that. And I think the big thing is like in Toronto, like you had a pretty decent run. You wound up losing to Cloud9, so you had to play the 3rd place ladder against like Echo Fox, which I don't even know how much people cared about the third place decider. Third place decider is always really weird, right? That's why you really rarely see them. And so that was kind of a weird thing. Like you guys beat Optic, but you guys lost to C9. Then the Star Ladder, you wound up like Dignitas, I guess, got their revenge against you guys in a best of three to knock you out there. And then Bucharest, you guys wound up losing a best of three to Envy. So I guess my point is like when people look at Power-LAN, they see you guys, you know, knocking off Astralis and Dignitas, and then like I guess the follow up isn't as strong. Like I think that's like kind of fair to say. Like you didn't win any big, you weren't winning best of threes anymore against top level teams. I guess is like the point. Like, is there a reason for? Because I think some people would just say, oh, well, maybe it's because they were super familiar with the Astralis and Dignitas, and that's why they won those best of threes. Because you know, how, like people always make those comments about domestic matchups, and then you even mentioned yourself that some of these guys were on vacation after the major. Maybe they weren't in their top form. So people might even assume, okay, is like Power-LAN kind of fluky then, since the follow up wasn't as strong. Like, what are your thoughts on this whole process?
Well, I think those tournaments you mentioned, we started off playing in Toronto. We had back-to-back tournaments all over the world, basically. NA to Europe to another tournament in Europe. And it was the first time our guys, like Valde and I even think Glaive, like that was their first time outside of Europe. And we were traveling for like basically 35 days in a row or something. We weren't home, basically. And I think that was pretty tough for some of us. And it was pretty tough for me as well, because like 35 days away from home, girlfriends, family and such, it was kind of hard. But I think our results was pretty like decent from like being a new team. Of course, we got pretty hyped after we won Power-LAN. Then we lost to an upcoming Cloud9 basically, because the same, like I think it was some months after they even won the ASL Pro League.
Like 2 months later, I think, maybe.
Yeah, so they were like, we got beaten by.
You were the first victim, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. And Star Ladder, we came in the same group as Astralis and Tylo. We beat Astralis in the group stage. We beat Tylo. From that group, we even have Navi, Astralis, and Tylo.
Yeah.
So no one even saw us go through.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up winning the group. Facing Dignitas in the quarterfinal. We ended up losing 2-1, which I think we kind of throw that game. But hey, you can always talk about that. But
we're going to talk about a throw that you guys had a little bit later. We'll talk about that.
But
it's a funny story to that.
At that point, we had been traveling for 20 days.
Right.
No excuse, but I guess it affected people.
Right.
To some degree. Then in Bucharest, we came in the group with, well, I think it was, I don't even know, Envy. And yeah. Well, we had that big marathon game.
Yeah, marathon Mirage game.
Okay, I think we ended up winning that group as well. No, we didn't.
No, you didn't make it out the group. You lost the best decider to Envy. You had the rematch.
We had VP in winter games, and we lost to VP, and then we played against Envy again and lost 2-1 again. And I think people at that time, I think we were tired, but we still wanted to win, of course. But I think, okay, that was a fluke, maybe. I think it was. But yeah, I think our result was pretty okay, but we didn't show up when we needed to.
Right. I mean, I guess it's like one of those situations where you probably weren't like necessarily losing the teams that you should be beating, but you just like weren't getting those big wins anymore like you got at Power-LAN, so to speak. So it's kind of neutral, I think is probably the best way to put that. How did you feel the team was progressing, though, just like as a team, like as far as like how you guys were coming together, maybe like how Snappi was leading? Like did all signs still point positive, even if the results like on the surface to the outside didn't necessarily like look as impressive as Power-LAN or what have you? Like how did you feel the team was molding through this big travel period?
I think we handled it pretty good. Like for our sake, those results we got, we didn't expected it, and I don't think the scene did expected it. So for us, even though we lost some, lost quarterfinal to Dignitas, it was still basically a win because no one even thought we were going out on the group stage. So for us, it was not okay to lose, but I guess you know what I mean. It was like we got 2 wins versus opponents no one thought we were gonna win against, and then in Bucharest, well, no one saw us go through that group either because we were in group with Envy and Virtus. So I think the result was okay for us.
I think it's just like the best way to sum it up is you weren't falling below expectations, you just weren't exceeding expectations. I think it's like probably the.
I think so.
Okay,
I think that's the correct word.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously after DreamHack Bucharest is when one of your first roster moves take place, right? This is where Glaive departs to go play with Astralis, and then that's when you guys pick up Nikolai.
We actually had one local LAN as well with Glaive.
Really?
Yeah, we had what was that? That was a local LAN. We lost in the final versus Dignitas again.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Oakland. I was about to say I think Oakland comes way later, but okay.
Yeah.
I misheard what you said. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Close enough. All right.
Yeah, close enough. Okay, so basically.
Is there even a point in asking why? Isn't it like pretty obvious? Like, I mean, you already kind of touched on it as well when we were talking like Glaive a little bit earlier that he just wanted to play at the Astralis. So, I mean, is there really anything else to put here about like why he didn't stay, why he goes to Astralis?
No, like we're like Valde. He is really good friends with Lucas in real life, with Glaive, and Snappi is a good friend with him. We all was good friends with him.
Sure.
We just wanted to do what was best for him. So we didn't put any strings in the wheel, basically. We could have said no. We could have just said, no, we don't want to sell you. And he...
This sounds kind of familiar, a little bit later on.
He could just stay in our team. And that's it, because he had a contract with us for like almost a year. Because we basically just signed new contracts back then. So he could have been stuck for us for like 10 months, but...
yeah, I get your point. Like, holding a player hostage probably wouldn't have really benefited anyone, I guess, at that point.
No, exactly.
And I guess, like you said, there's really nothing deeper to this. It's just a better opportunity for him, and that's really all there is to it.
We're really happy for him, so...
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I figured there wasn't really any more really into that than what it is. So the way you replace Glaive is actually picking up Nikolai. I call him Nikolai because it's just easier than saying Niko, because when I say Niko, there's like 3 other players named Niko. So I thought he was trying to brand himself as Nikolai for a little bit there as well, and then he just went back to Niko.
Because we're always telling him to change Nick. That's why.
Yeah, but then he just went back to Niko again. I know, man. I know. It's gonna be that's a little tough. Anyway, so this is another example then of you guys bringing up young talent, much like you did with Valde. Nikolai, I guess, a little bit younger. I think he's what, like 18?
Yeah.
So how did this come to be? Like, how did Nikolai become the option after Glaive leaves? Like, what did you guys see in him? How did that happen?
Okay, we can go back to Copenhagen Wolves area again. I think Snappi. I think Nikolai was playing stand-in to Copenhagen Wolves with the Snappi in it back in the days, and he saw some potential in him, and we actually wanted him to stand in for me at Northern Arena, the event we lost to Cloud9, because I had to Toronto, because I actually had a vacation plan. So I was supposed to go to vacation, but when we okay, never mind. Yeah, that was it basically. So, but then I canceled my vacation and I was going with the team. So we still have eyes on him. So it was we pretty much knew who we wanted when Glaive told us he wanted to play Astralis. So it was pretty smooth move.
Yeah, I kind of wondered like how easy this was to gel him in, because I feel like when I was watching Heroic play throughout all the stuff we've been talking about, it felt like the synergy between Glaive and Valde was really strong. Like, they did a lot of things together, like taking map control on A side on overpass, or they would play like this, like they did this rare thing where they would do like this repeated double drop down control on cobblestone, which I thought was like really neat. And it seemed like Nikolai like really just kind of gelled into that. And then I think in other ways, I feel like you made accommodations for him even personally. Like, I think the best example I can think of off the top of my head would probably be like Train, because like I know you used to play a lot of Inner, and then you kind of moved to Ivy, and Nikolai went into Inner. So was this a situation where he just naturally fit where you needed him, or was it a mixture of that and then you guys having to find ways to accommodate him? I guess is kind of the question I'm asking here.
So at that point, like I said, I was supposed to go to vacation, but I canceled it so we could go to a tournament. And the natural choice when we got Niko is just because at that point he basically played the same position as I did, and it was easier for him to make him feel more comfortable. I just said, you take all my positions and I just go to the other side of the map. So basically he took all my position on different maps, like where we had those positions as well. So I just took, for example, like I mentioned, I was playing train inner for like the whole Team X area. And when we brought him in, I just said, Niko, you played inner in Tricked, you go take inner, I go back to Ivy. Because I played Ivy back in SK. So, yeah.
Right. So on a map like that, you guys made an adjustment, but it felt like on, say, Overpass or Cobblestone, he kind of just plugged into some of Glaive's spots, and it seemed to, like, work out. So was it just, like, kind of a map-dependent thing on how you fit him into the team, or...?
I just think at that point we didn't have that much practice because we had all these tournaments upcoming, and we just needed to make him understand our taxes as fast as possible. So we just put him in the role Glaive had, and we just went for it basically. So because we didn't have that much practice with him.
Okay, so I guess like the like general question I like to ask now is, like, going forward, like even now with Niko still and like JUGi coming in and things like that, has your mentality as like a veteran type player, like or just maybe the overall team mentality, has it been to like give these new players their best chance to succeed by like making adjustments as we need to for these new guys? Or has there ever been like resistance, like, no, I've been playing this spot forever and I want to keep it, like you are going to have to, like, as a new player, kind of learn and adjust? Or is it kind of like give and take? Is it kind of a mixture of both? Like what's y'all's mentality about how you bring in young talent like this?
I think it's give or take basically. For example, JUGi's case is easier to swap operas because they have basically the same roles on every map. It's just how versatile you are. So for JUGi, it was just basically just take the same positions as Friis.
Yeah, that's pretty natural.
But if you want to do something else, you go do something else. You just need to tell us, and we adjust. For Niko's case, you always have a team decision, like, do you want to play here or do you want to play here? And here, if you say, I prefer to play here, and, well, I do that too. So then you just, I can only talk about myself. I know Niko is probably a better player than I, so I was like, okay, if you want to have inner on train, you go and have train.
All right.
You're probably going to do better than me, so I just take one of these positions and be a support player.
There you go. So your first initial tournaments with Nikolai, I guess, didn't go so well, right? Like ESWC, you guys got beaten in best of 3 by Fnatic Academy.
Yeah.
That's something that you guys don't really like to talk about a lot. At least Valde doesn't.
It's fine.
And then obviously the EU minor, you guys also like went out, and so that obviously killed your ability to try to qualify for E-League Atlanta. Were these initial bumps in the road just, you think, simply tied to the fact that you had just made a big roster change with Glaive and Niko, or were there some other things maybe going on that maybe affected your performances? Like, what were your thoughts about these like first initial tournaments that you guys played with Nikolai?
I just think it was a lack of practice because even up to date, like today, we haven't practiced that much with Niko because we're still playing the same basic Counter-Strike as we did with Glaive, because we had no time to even adjust our playstyle because we had so many qualifiers. We had we had like 1 or 2 LANs that, for a small team as us back then, it was really important for us to attend those LAN we got an invitation to or qualified to, so we couldn't just pick and choose like the top teams does. So when we got an invitation for ECWC, we basically needed to say yes if we wanted to compete in a LAN tournament. So and we all have those official games like the qualifiers, so we basically just had like 1 or 2 practice days a week since we brought in Niko, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but in general we didn't have that much practice with Niko, even up to date.
Right.
So I think it was just lack of practice. That's why we basically lost to those teams.
So then after that, you guys come back to NA and you guys play Montreal, and then I think you guys got like last minute invited to Oakland because VP couldn't make it. Was that the case?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we were in DreamHack Leipzig when they asked us. I think it was. I think we were in the lunch tournament when they asked us, so we needed to go on the road again for like 30 days.
Gotcha. So obviously at the Montreal event, you guys placed top 4 here. Like you guys again proved to be very strong in best of ones. Get out of groups again, beating Liquid and G2, and then against Optic, they obviously are the eventual champions of the tournament. Then they go on and they do some good things as well. So is this like a situation where it's similar to the whole Cloud9 thing at Toronto, where you felt like you were just the first victims of an emerging team, or what did you think was kind of the issue here at Montreal? Like, why weren't you in the finals, basically? Like, what do you think about this tournament?
I don't know. I just think they I think Optic played good and we played bad. I think it was 2 close first maps, and then we just got overrun in Cobble. I don't know why, but that happened. But I think we were really, really happy when we beat Liquid, because that was our first win on like 3 LANs. Because basically, okay, we won against like smaller teams than ESWC, but I think it was big relief for us that we could do some damage against top teams. So after we won against Liquid and we were supposed to play against Gamers 2, and we won against them, I was really happy and relieved because it was. I think we proved for ourselves that we still could, because I think people start doubting themselves when you lose those smaller tournaments like ECWC, and we didn't even win a single game in the minor qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
And then we played the semifinal versus Optic. We played a pretty decent game, and like I said, they went out winning the tournament. So,
right.
Yeah,
so then obviously you like immediately travel to Oakland after this, and you guys go out in groups here as well, but you did get a couple of best of 1 wins, one against SK on Cobble, the opening game of the tournament, and then you beat Mousesports on Cobble as well. So continue to prove that you were a pretty strong Cobble team, except for getting absolutely skunked by Optic on the map at Montreal, for honest. Little jab, of course. But anyway, so I guess the point is like when I'm watching your team play at these tournaments, and I'm like studying your team and I'm watching how you guys play, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting good performances out of Valde and niko. I like they look pretty strong young players. I thought you were doing your role well. You seem to be playing just fine. And like in general, Snappi, the way he was leading the team felt good. I mean, you certainly had like a very aggressive identity, but it wasn't as if it was like this unstructured, completely loose aggressive identity that was just like super free flowing, YOLO, not any thought process behind it, right? And so it looks like you guys have some good pieces. You have a good system. Like the building blocks that now lead you to a top 4 finish at Katowice are already kind of here. Why then were the results not quite there, do you think? Like why didn't you make it out this Oakland group or something like that? Like what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think like back again, I don't think anyone expected us to even win a game that group. We got a last invitation. We were still struggling basically because we came from disappointing ECWC, came from a disappointed minor qualifier, and came directly from an okay Montreal.
Right, that's fair.
And our first game, we were supposed to play against the major champions, SK. Like we actually managed to win. I don't know how, but we did. I think we played a real decent Counter-Strike. Then we were supposed to play, I think it was NRP, maybe not. But yeah, they crushed us, so they put us down to earth again. Then we managed to win versus Mousesports on Cobblestone again. I think at that point I felt we had a pretty okay chance to qualify, but we still had some tough opponents left. It's like We ended up playing 2-2 in the group stage. The last game was Cloud9, like we always struggling against. We lost that game 16-13 on Mirage, and basically we were out in the tournament.
Was there something special about Cloud9 that you think like made you guys struggle against them at like Toronto in this event, or?
No, I just think they are not afraid to play us. Like when top teams lose to smaller teams, I just think they're not playing to lose, if that makes sense. I think when we play against Cloud9, they just feel okay. We're gonna beat them, and we're going with full. Like we're gonna crush these teams. And when you're going with when you're confident and you win your duels, you're probably gonna win the game. But if like when smaller teams play against, like when we started playing that group stage, we went in. Okay, doesn't matter if we lose because no one expects us to win anyways. So we just like, hey, let's go in and shoot some headshots, and then we just start like get decent half, and then the top team starts like, what the fuck is happening? And they start doubting themselves, and then you clearly had a good shot to winning. But I don't think Cloud9 has that like thing versus smaller teams.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
So then you had
that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. We're gonna get back to this mentality thing in a second, but I want to catch up with like the latest roster move and then Leipzig really fast, and we'll come back to like an idea about mentality, because I think that's a good point to make. So you guys obviously had a couple of month break, and then you guys go play DreamHack Leipzig in January. Just like I think that was just like 6 weeks ago, right? 6-7 weeks ago, something like that. And obviously you guys again dominate some best of ones in group play against QWERTY, which you effectively maybe killed that team. And then
I'm sorry.
It's okay. And then you guys, sorry. Then you guys.
What can I say? If you tell me we are killing the team, like I need to apologize.
There you go. And then you guys won a best of one against LDLC as well. So again, you win the group. This is deja vu. Again, you're winning on Cobble. What's going on here?
Nice.
Then you guys play big, okay? And we were talking about throwing and things a little bit earlier. So you guys beat this team 16-4 on train. It's looking good. Then you guys, I think the second map's Dust 2. Again, not like one of your best maps. We know that. And you guys, I think you lost the first half like 10-5 or something like that. But then you were making like a really solid comeback in the second half. Like it was looking really good. I think you may have been even up like 13-10, 14-10, something like that.
Probably.
You know what's coming next. and then it happens, right? And then they beat you, and then they crush you on Cobble. Cobble.
Yeah.
What happened here?
Shit happens.
Like, how does this happen?
I don't know.
You don't know?
It just happens sometimes. I just think our team, just in general, I don't want to disrespect any team out there, but I just think we played much shittier against lower team. Like, doesn't need to be a lower team than us, but just like, for example, if we play against SK, we're probably gonna go do better against SK than, for example, Flipside. That's the same level as us, maybe. But we're always gonna play and perform better when there are top teams, like the top 10 in the world, than we do against top 15 to 30.
Right. So there's actually a funny there's a funny story surrounding this. So right before you guys play big, we were sitting around talking at your like practice table, and I was talking to Valde, and we were joking around about like Danish choking and stuff like that. Ha 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 ha. Funny joke. And then Valde said, "Well, the reason why we won't choke is because we have a token Swede, which is you, Moddii, and that's like your self-defense mechanism against choking." Apparently, it was like the joke that Valde made, and I thought that was pretty funny. So I'll throw that in here. So then, of course, you go play big, and you guys are in this Dust 2 game, and you're up 14-10, and you guys started doing like this really weird, like, let's play retake A, but not with any utility. Like, we're just gonna play retake A, and we're not gonna have any utility.
Dust 2, we don't have a fucking clue what we're doing at Dust 2. So
okay, fair enough. Friis wasn't hitting his op shots. It was a tough game. And then obviously you guys
lose the game on Dust 2.
Yeah, there you go. I just thought I'd throw that story in there because it was like the irony of it was like pretty good.
Was.
I thought viewers might enjoy that little story from Valde right before this best of 3 happened. So then after this tournament is where we are today, basically, as far as like the roster now. Like this is where we form the roster that we have today, right? Friis leaves the team, gets kicked, whatever, and then you guys pick up JUGi. So first of all, how did you guys come across this decision? Like, okay, we need to make another change. Like, I don't know how much you want to get into this. I figured I'd just ask and throw it out there, and then you can just kind of take it the way you want to.
Well, I think we felt we missed something. At that point we felt we were missing a more aggressive AWPer. Friis is still a good AWPer, but he's pretty like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna hold this, and that's it. And we just needed a more like player that's, I'm gonna be everywhere. I'm gonna kill people. I'm just not gonna sit here and just wait for people to go into my crosshair basically. So that's the thing I can say.
I think that's fair enough. I think some of the best operators in the world are the ones that are dynamic and move across the map. Like you never know where they're going to be at on CT side. You know, they're going to be somewhere different all the time, or they're going to take engagements, try to open things up on T sides. I think that's fair enough. Again, though, this is once more you guys picking up another young player, Valde, Nikolai. Now it's JUGi, and so that seems to like really be one of the core focuses of this team. Is that out of necessity because you can't get someone from like dignitas or Astralis, and so you're like, okay, well then we need to be able to find young talent? How does one go about scouting these types of players? Like a lot of it was like Copenhagen Wolf stuff with like Snappi, perhaps like being like really involved in scouting these people and knowing them. But I mean, is that really all it is? Like Snappi's the scout master or something like that on finding the talent, or what?
I don't know. He has been pretty lucky with his shoes right now, but I think it's kind of hard for us. Like for me, we are the third Danish best team, well on paper or of the rankings, but I think we're better. But we can't just take players from North or Astralis, so we need to go on the teams that is below us, basically. And I've been playing with JUGi for
I know. I actually, you guys played on, it was like 2015 on Reason. Yeah, it was like a long time ago. So was this kind of like your move then? Like, was this something that you pitched in on, or? I mean, obviously this guy was playing pretty well on Tricked and stuff like that. So I mean, he obviously had some attention. So yeah.
I think we were pretty clear who we wanted. Even like when we were in talk of who we wanted, like when we wanted to bench Friis, we all said we wanted JUGi, basically. And
so we can confirm that he is JUGi and not JUGi, as some people have said.
JUGi.
Okay, JUGi. Just want to... Well, there you go, guys. Now you know.
JUGi.
JUGi.
It's not JUGi.
Did you get triggered when you heard that on stream?
Nah.
Nah, you're fine. All right, that's good. Good guy.
I'm not JUGi, so...
Oh, man. Where is this going? Okay, so obviously there was some drama surrounding the picking up of JUGi. At first, it sounded like he wouldn't even be able to play with you guys for a while because of like issues with buyout, and like I think it was stated at one point like, yeah, we signed him for 2018, and we're just like, great, we just gotta wait, 9 months before we can. We're gonna be real good in 9 months. Like, what was your thought process here? Like, were you guys concerned that you weren't going to be able to get him, and that because obviously you had Cadian stand in for a couple of events, right? So what was like the thought process at this point? Like, oh shit, like we're screwed, or how did this go about?
Well, we were concerned as fuck. We didn't even know if we were able to do something. We were on 4 players, and we didn't even knew anything, basically. We just sat there and like, what's gonna happen?
Like, and what would you have done if you had to really wait until 2018? Like, what would you guys have been able to do?
I don't even know. That's a good question. We don't even know.
Oh, good thing it worked out then, of course.
Yeah,
there you go.
Like when we need to play the qualifiers, of course. We need to play with stand-in, and luckily for us, Rogue had a vacation at that time, and Cadian, he canceled his vacation basically, not for us, but I think it's just got cancelled, and we asked him.
The great mercenary of the world, the hired merc.
Yeah. Basically.
The ringer of ringers.
He wanted to play the qualifier for us, so we actually took a small boot camp with him, so he could learn all the things we had.
There you go.
And it panned out pretty good because we won the qualifier. And
So here's a fun question. How soon, or like how, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. How close were you guys to attending IEM Katowice before you realized that you would actually be able to use JUGi? Like, how tight was like the timeline on that?
I think we didn't even know. I think even a week before we didn't even know if we were going or not. So
wow, that is so you guys were really like on the wire basically for all
yep.
this.
I think we had 4 days practice or something, 4 or 5 days with JUGi before
That whole
we left.
squeaky butthole situation right there.
Yep, it was tight.
I'm not gonna leave that alone. We're not gonna go there. All right, so we'll talk about IEM Katowice real quick, and then we're going to get into some final questions because I've kept you for quite some time. So obviously, IEM Katowice,
I like this.
This is a big result for you guys, right? You guys beat North Navi MVP to make it out of the groups, first out of the group, so you get straight to the semifinals. And then you guys, of course, lose another best of 3, but this time it's to Astralis, best team in the world at the time. Close games as well, by the way. I think like when you look at the score overall, I think they were both 16-12 losses, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
Sure.
So... Yep. Good showing from Heroic. I think everyone was fairly impressed. JUGi's debut, his first LAN playing against teams of this caliber. So there's a lot of factors in. I mean, overall, are you guys satisfied with IEM Katowice, or do you really like? Obviously, you always want to win, right? Like that goes without saying. But I mean, how did you guys feel about this event, and why do you think you were able to be so successful in such like a short time frame with JUGi?
I think we were really satisfied compared to how we felt like individuals and as little practice we had, because after we went out, we sat down, we sat and talked, and it's like, how do you feel about this tournament? Well, immediately I felt shit because I didn't do anything basically. I think I had one of my worst tournaments as an individual, and then we asked the other guy, how do you feel? Basically the same, and we all come to agreement that we all basically sucked in individual performance, and we won because we played as a team.
Fair enough. All right.
So
well,
I think if people like, you always see Valde shooting 30 people basically all the games, like and niko 20, 30 bombs. But this
I think niko's biggest crime is that Valde exists, because I think like people would really notice how well niko's been playing as like an 18-year-old player. His first international LAN was 4 months ago. Right, and he already seems to be putting up pretty decent numbers.
I think everyone was disappointed by their own play, basically, and still we managed to win games. And like, if that's the big issue right now, that we feel like we don't play on our top level, then I'm really happy to see how we're gonna do when people like Valde, niko, and JUGi are playing good games.
You just call them JUGi, man.
Because you were doing it.
No. I call him JUGi. I just asked the question. Don't do this. Don't throw me under the bus.
In my head.
Listen. Okay. I know players don't like me, but you gotta work with me here.
It's because it's in English and it's JUGi. Or if I was talking Danish, like JUGi.
Okay.
So I mean, like.
I'll let that slide then. I'll let that go. All right. So you're gonna hate me when I ask this question, by the way. So just go ahead and prepare. Okay, you won't? Okay, cool. Well, we'll see.
I'm not a hater, dude.
All right. So if we're being real honest with each other right now, Moddii, you and me, we're just chatting. All right. You guys haven't won a best of 3 in forever. All right.
Yeah.
Since Toronto was the last time. Like that was against No. What was it? No, yeah, you did beat that Optic team in Toronto. That was kind of a weird situation though, because like they didn't have Tarek or whatever. They were playing with Thap still. So the biggest best of 3 you guys have ever won was the Astralis Dignitas ones. That was the first ones with Power-LAN before Nikolai, before JUGi. So why do you think you guys have struggled so much in best of 3 series, despite the fact that you've performed very well in best of 1 series?
To one sense, I think we are pretty much. I think we are unlucky, and I think that we haven't practiced that much, so we don't have a deep map pool, so we can people pretty much know what we're gonna pick before the playoffs even starts, because we don't have a deep map pool basically. And the best of Friis we have been playing, like you're saying, is Cloud9. We lost, and they at that time they were in the prime time, and then we lost versus Optic, which later that month, for 2 months later, they won E-League, so they were on their prime. And the third best of three, we lost to Astralis, which is the major champions. They even won this tournament, and like all the teams we are losing to, basically wins the tournament. So
except for Big.
Except for Big.
Academy.
Except for those two guys.
There you go.
No, but I mean,
no problem.
I don't know.
That's what I'm here for, Moddii.
Like I said before, like versus Big and Fnatic Academy, I just think we always play much worse against like the smaller teams, even though it's not smaller. But
right,
like they are not SK, they're not Astralis, they're not Cloud9. Like we always play like worse when
level
we play
to your
against those
opponent.
teams. I don't even know why. But
you played to like the level of the perceived level of your opponent, I guess, is like the way you're trying to phrase that.
I think the map pool is just crushing us basically because we had, like, to be honest, we haven't even had 1 month practice with Niko yet, like full practice.
That's fair.
He hasn't even taken the roles he actually wants to, because we just put him in the old roles. Like I said, like we talked before, he just took Glaive's roles and just gave him my roles so he could feel more comfortable. But he's not comfortable in all Glaive's roles, basically. And that's exactly what we have done with JUGi.
Okay. So we're gonna get to some cool stuff now. This is like new stuff then we're about to talk about. So throughout all of this that we've talked about, you've keyed in on a lot of things that I think relate to mentality, like playing to the level of your opponent or your perceived level of that opponent, like playing better against stronger teams or playing lesser against teams you perceive as weaker. Just confidence, like, or lack of confidence, like going into events not even thinking that you have a chance or something like that, and then so like you feel like you have nothing to lose. So I guess my question would be then is like some of these like little breadcrumbs you've kind of left throughout this interview all lead back to this idea about the team's mentality. Like, do you feel that there are some rooted like mentality issues that your team has to work past, or what do you think?
I don't think so. I just think when we are playing against like the bigger teams, I just think we want to win on tactics instead of just show them what we can do. Like if Valde has some read or he feels really comfortable, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go PK. We usually just say yes, do it. But when we play against a good team, I think they just capitalize better against it. So we always like, no, don't do it. We just need to follow. Let's do this and let's do this and let's do this together instead of just, hey, go and peek there, go and kill one guy on B side. It's like, okay, that works against the smaller teams, but it usually works in big teams as well. Like, for example, on Katowice, when we play against North, we came in like, we're not afraid of these guys. We're just gonna win. Like, what the fuck? Who's this? And we managed to win, even though it was close. We didn't play scared. We just play like, if you want to take this battle or this duel, take it. Don't be afraid. Just like, if you do a stupid mistake, it's fine by us. But don't be afraid to do it. And we managed to win the game. Then we start playing against Cloud9 and SK. It was like, we won the first game. Let's go back to what doesn't work. Go back, play defensive. Go play 100% strat heavy. It's like, don't do any mistakes. Don't do that. Don't do that. And it panned out. It didn't work. We just lost the games. And we sat down and we all talk. So like, if we want to win against Navi, we can't play scared, because we're not the team who's going to be scared. Navi is going to be scared of us because they have more to lose than us. So play with confidence. Like, do the things you want to do, but don't like overextend it. Like, don't be afraid to take a duel versus anyone, because we have better aimers. We have a decent team. Like they should be afraid of us, and we managed to win. and like
Right.
and versus Virtus, like we said, just going with the same mentality as like.
So do you think maybe it's like less of a mentality issue as far as like confidence and stuff goes, and more of like an identity crisis, like trying to figure out like what type of team you want to be, or just like trying to find better balance? Like you want to be able to go ahead.
Balance for sure. I think we need to have the balance. Like if someone in our team is like, "Yo, Snappi, can I go on PK?" Or me and Valde, we should do this to maybe fuck them up or something. It's like, yeah, do that instead of just no, just sit back, play it cool. Like we just need to find the balance to do.
Right.
Can we do it? And can we do it now, or can we do it like in 3 rounds, or whenever can we do it? So we need to find the balance and more practice, basically.
Right, because like the best teams in the world, it seems like we've gotten to a point now in Counter-Strike where you have to be good at all styles of the game, almost like you have to be able to play aggressive when need be and like do a fast execute or something like that, and like change up the pace with speed, but then you have to have like a well-functioning default and be able to work map control and work slower, and then having some nifty executes to throw in there seems to like be really big. Like you see teams doing that. I've seen your team go through all of these stages at some point in time. I feel like I've seen the aggressive side of Heroic, I've seen the nifty executes. We talked about that one on, I did a video on the one on Mirage where you guys like throw the smoke from B into A, and like you have like a late mid lurk or whatever as you attack the A bomb site. We talked about that in detail at Leipzig. So I feel like I've seen the different stages. I've seen you guys play slower like defaults. So like what you're saying is like you just have to figure out exactly how to mix all of that together better. Is that like the goal going forward for Heroic?
Yeah,
is just to
100%, and that's something Snappi is working with, because like we have been talking about, he's new in game leader. He hasn't been in game leader in his whole life, so we need to like help him to figure this out and find the right balance. And I think when we figure this out, we're gonna be a top team. Like we're not gonna lose against the smaller teams. Like we're gonna be a stable top 10 team.
So even when I say that like most of the top teams in the world have a really good balance of being able to play these different styles, I feel as though you could certainly pinpoint that all these teams still have a style that they're stronger in than other styles, right? Like for a while, SK was stronger as like a slow team as opposed to a fast team. Whereas you look at a team like, I don't know, like Optic was more known for like being really good at trade fragging and being more aggressive, despite the fact that they could do that. FaZe, the same thing, like more known for the aggressive identity, I think, than the passive one. What do you think your team strength should be or will be or is or what have you?
I think our strength is like our chemistry in the group, and our tactics, because we have a really good tactics and we have a good chemistry in the team. We just need to find the balance between let loose and play 100% strat heavy, basically.
Right.
Yeah, because when we let loose and play strats like 80-20, that's the Heroic that wins. Like that's the Heroic that wins in Katowice, like the group stage games. So all the other group stage, basically, because that's when we play like loose and play more chill, because we don't have anything to lose, basically. And
so we talked a little bit about, or way earlier on, about Snappi's evolution as an in-game leader from where he was when he first took on the role, basically as completely new to the role, and then you know you go forward, what we said, like 7 months or something like that, to or maybe a little bit longer than 7 months now, I guess, to today, and where he is today. Like what do you think about him now as an in-game leader, as opposed to like in the past when maybe it was kind of like a gamble to see how it would actually work? Like it seems to have paid off from an outside perspective. Like I enjoy watching Heroic play. Like I said, I've seen you guys be able to do these different things. It's just about, like you said, blending it better together. So what do you think of Snappi as an in-game leader?
I think he's really a mental strong. He's a strong game leader for sure. He has some flaws that I know he's working with, and we are helping him with it. But overall, he's a strong leader. He's a strong character, and he believes in his players. So I think he's really good in game lead, even though he's just been in game league for like 8 months.
So sometimes in-game leaders are seen as very good because they're very good tacticians. Like they're very good at just coming up with tactics or figuring out a way to use their players or reading their opponents very well. But then some in-game leaders, while they have all that, maybe they lack the ability to lead men, like just leadership in general, right? And I'm not going to get into like naming people. Like Thorin actually went really into detail about a video about this. It was really cool stuff. So when you think of Snappi, like you're talking about how he has some of his shortcomings and stuff, like how do you feel about him as a leader of men as opposed to, we already talked about the tactical side. What about just like a leader, how do you feel about Snappi?
I think he's a good leader, like, so overall. I think people are listening to him, and I listen to him. I think he's a good leader, no?
I think some of the things that maybe people have been criticized before is like maybe they they are unwilling to say no, like when someone wants to do something different. That's not an issue.
No, I think Snappi say more no and be like hold back people than saying yes to do. Like if people want to go outside of the box, like don't follow the tactic basically. He's more like, yeah. Okay, do it.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
But if you really if you have a read, like if you're in a certain situation, like if I see some flaws on my side of the site, and I say, okay, can we do like this instead? He's like, yeah, do it. But if he has like this final word, and he's really fine line with go outside the box basically. So that's what I mean with that we have. Playing that we need to play more loose, like 80-20 maybe. Now we play maybe 90-10.
Okay.
Like more strat heavy thing and just follow what we have been practice and do that. Don't try to do anything fancy.
So people always talk about like how deep Denmark is when it comes to talent, and there's two different ways to look at this. The first way I want to look at is the way that I feel like no one really talks about it as, because most people look at it and say, yeah, they just have like a lot of young skilled players that are coming up and they have a lot of talent in the scene in that respect. But what I've noticed and what I put this tweet out yesterday and it caught some attention from like Lurpus and some others, is that I said, what other country has as many good in-game leaders as Denmark? Because obviously you've had Glaive leading Astralis very well. You have Kerrigan doing a lot of great things with FaZe, which I think some people maybe like didn't really think of Kerrigan highly when he first left Astralis because they felt like he was the reason maybe they weren't doing as well. But he's proven on FaZe that he can be a good leader. Obviously, Snappi is going to come to mind in all of this as well, and then MSL obviously on North. So, what are your thoughts on this? Like, is this true? Like, does Denmark have this special ability to have like more capable in-game leaders than other regions, perhaps that don't have as many, or what do you think?
I just think the mentality in Denmark is way stronger than the other countries. Like, you get so much more attention in Denmark, like in the paper, in the news, and I just think people like fight with way more than like the other region in the world. So I just think if people really want to be an in-game leader and like they will fight for it and they will work for it. It's not like just gonna, I just want to be in-game leader. It's like, go B, go A, like. And I just think people are fighting for it or working for it that hard in the other countries.
So, I mean, obviously, like, Snappi was, like, the new guy, right? And you've played with Snappi this whole time. And, like, you played alongside Glaive, but he wasn't in-game leading at the time. Then, you know, you obviously play against guys like MSL and Kerrigan all the time. So, what do you think? Like, each of them are fairly competent in-game leaders and are highly respected, I think, for the most part. Do you think there was a lot of learning between each other? Or how starkly different do you think maybe some of them are? Or what are your thoughts on just, like, the collection of in-game leaders that Denmark has produced? In that sense,
it's a hard one. I just think we're more structured because I just think Snappi, he's like I said before, he's a really smart guy and he knows what he's talking about. So when he does something, he really believes in it. And I think the other in-game leaders like Kerrigan and MSL, I think they have a more loose style. I think they're playing more like if Magisk wants to do something, he probably say more yes than no to Magisk because he's a really good player. And the same as Config. And if you take Kerrigan, he has players like Rain, Niko, and all those star players. Like basically, if they want to do something, I would probably say yes too, even though I rather want to say no, because probably they're gonna get this advantage in the round. But Snappi, he has these players like JUGi, Niko, me, and Valde. Like, if we want to do something, it's like, okay, I can get an opening here. It's like, no, please don't do it. I have a set strat I want to do, and let's go for it. And I think this is gonna work.
Okay.
And 9 times out of 10 it works. But if he would have said yes to me maybe, or Valde, and we just go and die, then the round is over and it's on me or someone else. So I think it's just more structured and more like, yeah.
Okay, I think we've like pretty much hit all we really can on in-game leading and the team tactical style of your team, that's what I like to focus on, man. Like that's me. Like I'm really super into it, like with the behind the play series and things like that. So I kind of maybe harp on that a little bit more than maybe someone else would.
Yeah, cool.
Then there's the other side of the talent though, about just like young upcoming skilled players like Valde, Niko, and JUGi are all proof of this. The fact that there is a third team in Denmark that could perhaps be a top 10 team in the world, where maybe no other country can really claim that now. Like obviously maybe Sweden, right? Like if some of the teams get their acts together, then maybe you could see 3 Swedish teams be like pretty strong, right? But still, it's just kind of testament to how deep Denmark really is. I guess my point would be are we done? Have we finally seen all the Danish talent, or do you think the pool still goes even deeper? Like where's the limit, do you think, for that scene, since you've been playing in it for some time?
I think where Denmark has a really deep map or deep talent pool. There is some young players that play local lands that is like 14, 13 years old, that basically come to the finals every local land, but always get crushed by mixed teams such as Valde, JUGi, and like players that have been up here for quite a while. And so I think 1-2 years from now, you're gonna see some people that is the next Magisk boy, next config, next device, and all those guys, for sure.
So the world better beware of the future of more Danish dominance.
I think so. I know there's a lot of talented young guys out there, so people should watch out, because there's some good talents in here.
So just to finish off about talking about your team and about Denmark and stuff before we just go into some like community questions really quick.
Yeah.
What do you think the future holds for Heroic? I mean, like, do you think you're ever going to be able to get the preparation you really need to be able to do the things you want to do? And what does that even look like, by the way? I guess I forgot to ask this. Like, you talked about how Niko wasn't necessarily comfortable playing some of Glade's roles. So, like in an ideal world, what would Heroic look like role-wise? And what do you think the future holds for that ideal Heroic, if you can achieve it?
Our future looks really, really bright. We have been talking now after Katowice, and we're going to do some big changes in our team, like role-wise, map pools, and now finally Dust 2 has been removed. So if we manage to qualify for Star Ladder, I don't want to say anything, but I think we're gonna do pretty damn good.
So I can't get any taste of what role moves are coming? You're not gonna...
We're gonna swap some things, we're gonna swap positions, and we have been start practicing all the maps, included Cache and Inferno. So we're playing 7 maps, and
so basically I'm gonna have to go back and watch all your demos again to figure out what you guys are doing, because you're changing everything. Is that what you're telling me?
We're gonna change
a fair amount.
A lot.
Okay, there you go.
And
all right.
We're gonna have new tactics on basically all the maps, new standards. People won't see the old. They're gonna see some old stuff maybe, but they're gonna.
Does this mean Moddii is no longer lurking? Is that gonna happen?
Who knows?
Oh, okay. All right. You know what? I'm just going to leave it at that. I know you're not...
I'm not going to drop anything here.
Yeah,
I'm going to put all our book out in... So,
you can't blame me for trying, though, obviously.
Of course I won't.
It's
going to be a lot of new stuff.
Yeah, so, I hear you.
I'm looking forward.
So you mentioned the map pool thing a couple of times, and so I guess like that's obviously recent, as like Inferno has been brought into the map pool. We've seen it played at 2 tournaments now, though the sample size is still pretty small. Obviously you guys probably love this because Dust 2 came out, which is not one of your stronger maps. But my question is then, like, does Inferno do you think that Inferno just becomes your ban at that point, maybe? Like, just, or do you think like you really want to play Inferno and now maybe something else is going to be able to come out that maybe you didn't like playing? Because like outside of that, like you guys obviously don't play Cash except for that one weird time. We won't talk about that because that was really bad.
We played Cash in the Katowice qualifier. We beat gamers too.
So now Cash is coming in. Is that what you're saying? Never mind. I'm not gonna.
It is.
Oh,
it
okay.
is in already.
Okay.
Inferno is in as well. So we have 7. We haven't any ban picks now.
So are you trying to move to a system where you don't have to permaban, basically? Like you can ban off your opponent more?
Exactly.
We got one out of them, boys. One secret.
We're gonna have a deep map pool.
So what do you think about Inferno, though, so far? Because it feels a lot like nothing's that new about it and how people approach it. I see a lot of the same tactics I used to see. Do you think we will see innovation, or do you think that it still plays just relatively the same? Obviously, like, spamming's really big in apartments now, like, huge.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen it that much yet in play, but I know that the potential is there to, like, really screw some people trying to get apartments control. So what do you think about Inferno, I guess?
I think the meta is pretty much the same as before. The map hasn't, like, okay, there's some new things. They have removed some certain points, and like you said, you can spam on A-halls, but the map looks pretty much the same. The skyboxes are still there basically, and they have removed some, but in the whole picture, it's probably pretty much the same map as before. I think the same tactics that worked in early CSGO when Inferno was here should probably work now too.
So is there any potential innovation there, though? Like, is there anything about this version of Inferno that you feel will allow for some new things to come to the map? For sure?
Yeah, for sure.
Just leave it at that?
There's gonna be some funny things going on.
All right.
If people are allowing us to play, and if we qualify for star ladders, people are gonna see some funny stuff.
All right. We'll leave it at that. New stuff coming. We'll talk privately. You'll give me.
You're probably gonna do a new video about it.
Ooh, a new behind the play. All right. Yeah. Well, shameless self promotion, of course, about my other YouTube series. So I think we've pretty much hit everything as far as that goes. What do you think about? I don't know if I want to get into this actually. That's like talking about the other teams. There's like that would take forever. All the other teams out there. What do you think, though? I guess a general question I can ask about this is, like, obviously people kind of say we're like in the parody era now, where there is no like super dominant team. I think obviously people will say Astralis is the best team in the world, sure, but I think like you see other teams like winning tournaments pretty regularly. Like FaZe has been on the rise. VP can still win a tournament when the timing seems right. North has won a tournament before. We've seen a lot of teams be able to take home titles. SK still remains a top 4 team despite all the roster moves. So, like, what do you think about this situation where it feels like the top is just super competitive? Is it because of, like, you talked about lack of practice in your own right, like with the way like the scene's just shaping right now, tournaments and stuff like that? Is that a part of it? Like, what do you make of this era of Counter-Strike that we're in now, so to speak?
It's hard because I think the top 10 teams in the world, all of them can beat each other. And if for example, like if Astralis wins 3 tournaments in a row, people are probably gonna watch them. Why are they winning? And if they meet in the 4th tournament, they're probably gonna beat them. So that's why we see like so competitive scene, because there's so many tournaments, and people can study the opponent much more and more frequently, and to see like tendency. So, but for example, if you just have like one tournament, even though I don't want it to be just one tournament a month or 2, or one tournament each 3rd month, I don't want that. But if we had that in the scene right now, I think we could have had one team that is frequently the top team in the world, basically.
I feel like we're kind of on a 1 tournament a month schedule right now. At least so far this year, it's been that way, right? Like you had the E-League Major, then you had Masters Vegas. We just had Katowice. Yeah. Star Ladder's about a month away. So it seems like we're kind of getting into that groove. Like, what would your ideals format then be? Like, what do you think would be best?
I think it's fucking amazing. There's so many tournaments. Don't get me wrong, but I just think if people get more time home to study and practice, we probably would have like we would have that area that Fnatic was the best team in the world. Like no one could doubt it. Now there's like if we see Astralis, Virtus Pro, SK, and those teams, you can't really say who's gonna win the tournament because they are so alike basically. Like those three teams can win the tournament. Like 1 year ago, 2 years ago, if Fnatic attended, Fnatic's gonna win the tournament because they were just above everyone else. But now it's so the scene is so much closer right now, and people can just study each other like all the time basically because they're always playing new tournaments, they're always playing official games basically. So you can always find some flaws in the system.
Right. So on the line of like tournament format and stuff like that, like how do you feel about the way league play is right now? Like obviously there's a lot of online stuff between EPL or ECS. I think, are you guys playing ECS development?
No, we didn't qualify.
Okay. So you have that, you have like Star Ladder stuff going on, as you said. How difficult is that to really manage? And do you feel like we need to see some type of dramatic change in how this type of stuff operates?
I think it's cool. Like I like to play official games. Like so that's what I mean. Don't get me wrong. I love all like there's so many LANs, there's so many tournaments that you can qualify. That even if you don't qualify for one tournament, you're not gonna sit home and just wait for new season because there's so many things else you can qualify for. But it just need to practice more and just like be on toe basically.
Keeping on the topic of tournament format, we obviously had some like drama come out of Katowice, people complaining about best of one groups. We've also had like discussion about like the major format, like legends, secondary status, and how the majors are so far apart, and is that really the right way to do it? Do you think we need to see some overhauling of tournament format, or do you think it's fine that we have like diversity, like different tournaments running different formats, or what do you think about all this?
Well, I think it's good for the scene. There's different formats, of course, because, well, if you're the best team in the world and if you're gonna participate in all the tournaments and prove that you're the best team in the world, you should beat a lower team in the best of one. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a best of one or best of three or best of five. If you're a better team, you're better gonna win. Like, that's it. You see, like the Astralis, they won the tournament. They passed the group stage. Like, they're probably the best team in the world. Like, if you're not good enough, you're not gonna qualify. It's like it's not like you're losing one best of one like old 1/6 style. You're out of the tournament. You need to basically lose 3 best of ones to get out. So I think it's good to have all kind of formats like best of ones, best of twos, best of one, and then decide against best of three. Like I'm open for everything. Like I think it's good because it gives some charm to the scene. Like you don't see like it's always best of ones or always best of threes, or because it's just make something good.
There you go. So two more questions.
The only thing I
Go ahead.
dislike is like the major thingy. Like there's like 1 or 2 majors a year. The legendary team, if you just qualify once, like to be a legendary team, doesn't mean that I don't think it's deservable to have a major spot. Like if you're a team that qualifies, maybe you have a good run at the major, but then you don't see. How should I explain it? It's hard to explain because
there's too big of a gap. Like too much happens in between the majors for like a legendary team from one major to still really be considered a top 8 team, especially if like roster changes happen or what have you. Yeah.
I think this is one good example. For example, like flip side. They're playing good at majors. Like they always play good at majors, but then where are they? Rest of the year, basically. Like they're a good team. They of course they deserve to be on a major if they qualify, but you can't just play good in one tournament and just be like on the biggest tournament of the year. And you don't prove anything during the other 6-8 months of the year. So that I think that is some flaw in that system, I think.
Okay. I think it's fair. And I think a lot of people, a lot of reasonable people at least, have kind of come to the same conclusion. Have to see if they decide to ever make a change like that. Last question, and this is kind of like a famous last question for me on the hype in the past, was what changes to the game still need to be made? Like what changes would you still like to see to CSGO? It's how I always close my hypes in the past. So
what should change? All the bugs, basically. Like just the bug when you throw the smoke on the Molotov and the smoke bounces 500 times before the Molotov blooms, and sometimes you can just throw the smoke like on the edge and the smoke just blooms, and sometimes it doesn't. That's pretty much a big bug. Or I think they should rework maps so you can wallbang, because I really miss that. Like, so you can wallbang and do like a lot of damage, not only just shoot one bullet and do one damage, basically. So I just think, like for nuke, like I like nuke, and I would love to see that you can spam through like the rafters when you sit on top of what we call it secret, just when you go out of hut and just straight up, you know, where people usually sitting. Like if you can spam from T roof to that position, or T roof to heaven, or such like that.
Okay, so basically fixing bugs and adding spammability are your biggest things. I mean, a lot of people talk about pistols and things like that, or is that something you believe in as well, or?
Well, I think it's quite okay. Like, it's a new game. People should embarrass them. Like, I think some guns are so overpowered. Like, some guns cost nothing and you can kill 10 people with it, basically. And some guns cost fuck tons and do 1 damage. But hey, I don't think that's the biggest issue. I just think, like, if Valve wants to have those guns in the game, then they should probably do something more like on the other side of the game, like the bugs and spammability.
Well, there you have it. So that's pretty much all I had question-wise, man. I appreciate you coming on. Is there any last...
you want to have me?
Yeah. So is there any like final shout-outs or things you'd like to say to close this off before we sign this one off?
I want to say thank you to you for having me, and thank you for all the guys out there that's cheering for us, even though we, like Dust just said, that we suck in best of Friis.
Whoa, okay.
I mean...
Whoa! Whoa, dude.
Come on,
all
dude.
right, come on.
Like, I just want to say thank you for all you guys who cheering for us in the dark times, in good times. Without you guys, we're not us, and we're doing this for you guys, and big love to you guys. And big love to you, Dustin.